Hello and welcome back. This is story time number 2. So hopefully this one will be a little bit more spooky than yesterday's story. This one is not a personal account. I did not experience this firsthand. However, this story has been told in my family for many, many years now. So I'm still pretty close to this story. So we're all settled in here. I've got my candles lit for some spooky ambiance, and I have some tea so that my voice won't get as nasally and dry, hopefully this time around, but we'll see. Okay. Oof. There we go. Okay, so this took place in, I want to say it was the early 80s. I'm not sure. We're not getting started very well, are we? Okay, so this story takes place in the early 80s. What was going on at the time was my great aunt was moving off of the farm. And this is something that also happens in rural families. So she had a large area of land, she had farm buildings, and she had a big, beautiful farmhouse. And she had just sort of been settling in it and had been getting kind of, run down. The furniture arrangement was a little strange. She was having it farmed by her grandson, actually, was the one that kind of came up and said that he wanted to sort of take it over. So he'd been working on it for years before the actual move started. So it was sort of minimal maintenance, though, because it wasn't really his farm. And so now that he was coming into possession of the farm, he started to really ramp up the work that he was doing, fixing up the buildings, putting in, drainage, things like, just farm stuff. Okay, so great aunt moves into a assisted living situation, like apartment in town, and so now the house is up for grabs. And this was by far the most beautiful home in my whole family. It was very old. It had a big, beautiful open porch on the front. I had been there several times, and it was sort of a strange house. Like it wanted to be something fancy, I think. So when you walked into the big front door, you were met to the right, like right away. It was this big cascading open staircase. And then beside the staircase was this hall that went all the way to the back of the house where, the kitchen was. And to the left of the staircase was this configuration where it was a very fancy, formal living room. There's big, drafty windows, and there was always these big, heavy, drapes that were always kind of pulled. So it was always really, I just remember when she lived there, it was always really, really dark in every room. And then there was some really interesting French glass pane doors that went from that living room into they called it like a den or like a study, like an office. So it was a smaller room and not as formal. It was like more casual. And you could also get into that study from that long hallway. There was a door, like a smaller door into that study. So hopefully, so now there's a whole floor plan in your head, hopefully, of this house. And then right across from that door into the study was a door under the stairs. And that was like a coat closet or whatever, like storage door. It was like a sort of a Harry Potter under the steps situation where it was a, precariously angled little cubby sort of closet. So, right, so my great aunt's grandson, John, had been fixing up the farm, and once she was out of the picture, she was into town, then really he was very passionate about it, to the point where he would stay over. And so that way he could work until dark and then stay over, and then in the morning he would get up and go back to work again. And I think that he was just really trying to move into this house. It was a beautiful house. So there was a very old broken in sofa in the study and like a little TV situation and like, yeah, sort of like, I guess that became sort of his bedroom. So he's camping out on this old sofa, you know, with some Afghans or whatever. And like, so as usual, one night he's turning in. He has sort of a desk lamp that's just on the floor near the sofa, like really camping out. And so he has that on and he's turning into bed, and it's gotten really late. Maybe he was like doing projects around the house after dark, but he's turned in, it's getting really late, and he's starting to settle in to bed. He's falling asleep, right? So as he's falling asleep, over his head he hears like a thump thump. And so he clearly hears it. So he's thinking, okay, is this like falling asleep noises? Like sometimes when you fall asleep, your brain hears noises. I think it's like called exploding head syndrome. Like for some people it happens all the time when they fall asleep. They hear crashing sounds when they're trying to go to sleep. But really a lot of people just sort of experience it like randomly. I'm pretty sure it's happened to me. Anyway, so he's thinking like, oh, is this a fall asleep sound? Or is like this big crashing sound over my head? Like, did I dream this? Is this real? So he kind of just gets really quiet and he kind of holds his breath and he listens. And then pretty soon he hears a thump, 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 like just over his head. And he's thinking, okay, that is a thing. Like I am hearing a living thing. Like this is not house settling noise. This is not exploding head noise. This is something. So he's thinking, okay, old house, maybe there's some raccoons that got into the house for some reason and they're upstairs and they're extremely heavy raccoons. And so he's kind of thinking about this and kind of frozen because he doesn't know what's going on, so he doesn't know what to do. And then suddenly he hears like a thump, 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 and then it just gets turbulent and loud. Thump, 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 all the way over his head, which is down the upstairs hallway. And then stops when the sound gets to the top of the staircase. And then suddenly thump, 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 thump down the staircase. So he looks out the door of the room and clearly he can see this big guy, like this big man, just like roaring down that staircase. And like when the guy gets to the bottom of the staircase, he just hears this slap against the front door and this pulling around and clawing at the door and this commotion of there's a man in the house and he's trying to leave and he can't get out for some reason. And then suddenly there's like a silence and a pause. And so he just is on the sofa thinking, okay, this guy doesn't know I'm here. I don't know what's going on. I'm not moving from this spot. So he just sinks down into the couch. And then thump, 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 the guy comes running down the hall. And when the guy gets to the door of the study, he stops and he looks right into the study. And John says that he didn't really see him. He just looked right through him. But he got a clear look at this guy. Like, this guy is a solid guy. He is not, like, see-through or ghosty in any way. He's a physical man in the house. Very heavy boots. He is wearing like a flannel shirt and denim bib overalls. Like, you know, he's got the handkerchief in the pocket. He's got like the other pocket stretched out with a big checkbook in it. Like he's got like a seed cap on. He is balding and he is sweating and he is pale and his eyes are like filled with terror and panic. And then he looks behind him and sees that little closet door, and he rips the closet door open and he throws himself inside. He slams the door shut, and then there's a pause and there's just a click of the closet door locking. So John is like, you know, what the hell is happening? Why is this man in my house? He got a really good look at him. He was just some old farmer. So he waited for a few seconds because he still was pretty sure that, you know, whoever's in the house doesn't know that he's there. So he just kind of waits and he doesn't hear anything. He doesn't see anything. So he just kind of takes that as a moment to hop off that couch, and he ran out the door and he throws the front door open, and he just runs out to his truck and he drives straight into town. And when he gets to town, he immediately calls up, the police station, the police office, and he gets somebody on the phone. It's late, but not so late. And he gets somebody on the phone and he says, I was out at the farmhouse. Somebody's in the house. I think they have ill intentions. Like, we need to go and see what's going on. So they let him know they're going to send a deputy out to meet him. So he gets back in his truck. He drives back to the farm. And sure enough, there's the deputy there. And the deputy's already in the house. Like, he's checking the house from top to bottom. There's nobody in the house. So, he goes inside to kind of give a statement about what's going on, see if there's anything missing. And then just for kicks, he says, this guy jumps into this closet over here, and the deputy's like, this closet over here. And so they pull on the door to open it, and this door is locked. And they both look at each other and they're like, is this guy still hiding under the stairs in this closet? Yikes. So they go get some tools. It's an old door, so they just kind of take it apart and open under the stairs, and there's no one under the stairs at all. The guy is gone. So so unsolved mystery of strange disappearing large farmer guy in the house. And if my dad is in the room when this story is being told, he always has to chime in and say, that guy was definitely a ghost. And if you think that guy is scary, you don't want to be around when the guy that's chasing him shows up. Which, when I was a little kid, scared the crap out of me. But yeah, that is a story that we have told in our family for a long time. And so it's a little spooky. They still live there, and I've been there several times, and nothing else spooky has happened that I know of. Not anything quite like that. So, whoever that guy was, he's gone. He didn't come back, which is probably good. Okay, so we'll queue up another story for tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this story. Yeah, so we're keeping it going with Spooky Month.